Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Radha Giridhari Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Nitai Gaura Haribo Haribol Nitai Gaura Haribol Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol Hare Krishna. So we are going to be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam today from Canto 4, Chapter 15, verse number 24. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Hridiyantasto hi abhadrani vidhunoti sruhitsatam Nashtaprayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttama shlokir bhakti bhavati naishtiki. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So let's begin with our verse for today. It is 4, Canto 4, Chapter 15, verse number 24. Mahat gunan atmani kartum ishaha kahastavakai stavayate asto api tesya bhavishyan iti vipralabdho janavahasam kumatirna veda mahat gunan atmani kritam ishaha Kakstava stavayate astopi te asya bhavisyan iti vipralabdho janavahasam kumatirna veda mahad gunan atmani kartumishah kahastavakai stavayate astopi tesya bhavisyan iti vipralabdho janavahasam kumatirna veda. So anyone who would like to read this or recite it?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, I am trying.
Thank you.
Mahad gunan atmani kartum ishaha kastabakui stabhayate ashatopi te asabha vishayan iti vipralabdho jana bhahasham kumati naveda. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So we can read the synonyms and translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Mahat, exalted. Gunan, the qualities. Atmani, in himself. Kartum, to manifest. Ishaha, competent. Ka, wo, who. Stavakai, by followers. Stavayate, causes to be praised. Asataha, not existing. Api, although. Te, they. Asya, of him. Abhavishyan, might have been. Iti, thus. Vipralabdaha, cheated. Jana, of people. Avahasam, insult. Kumatihi, a fool. Na, does not. Veda, no. Translation. How could an intelligent man, competent enough to possess such exalted qualities, allow his followers to praise him? He did not actually have them. Praising a man by saying that if he were educated, he might have become a great scholar or great personality is nothing but a process of cheating. A foolish person who agrees to accept such praise does not know that such words simply insult him. Purport. Prithu Maharaj was an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Lord Brahma and other demigods had already testified when they had presented the king with many heavenly gifts. Because he had just been coronated, however, he could not manifest his godly qualities in action. Therefore, he is not willing to accept the praise of the devotees. So-called incarnations of God should therefore take lessons from the behavior of King Prithu. Demons without godly qualities should not accept false praise from their followers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bir Krishna Das Goswami Niti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So today our verse is quite interesting. It is about Prithu Maharaj's qualities basically. So before we actually move on, let's do a quick recap on this whole chapter because this chapter is finishing in the next two verses. So the chapters, the name of the chapter is King Prithu, King Prithu's appearance and coronation. So in the first few sections, the first few verses of this chapter, we learned about the appearance of Prithu Maharaj and Archi. And then from there, how Prithu Maharaj, the son of King Vena, Prithu Maharaj appeared by churning the arms. The sages then churned the two arms of King Vena's dead body, from which a male and female couple appeared. And this divine couple, the learned sages were pleased to see this couple, and they understood that an empowered expansion of Lord Vishnu, the Shakti avatar, had appeared. And then the sages speak about Prithu and Archi. Prithu and Archi, the Prithu male is a plenary expansion of the power of Vishnu, who maintains the world. So he's Bhuvana Palini. And the female Archi is a plenary expansion of Lakshmi, who is never separated from the Lord. So Prithu will be the first among kings, Prathamo Rajanam, and his reputation will expand widely. This is what the sages are saying. And Archie will be endowed with beauty that beautifies the ornaments she wears and will accept King Prithu as her husband. So then the Lord and Shri appeared. The Lord had appeared as King Prithu to protect the people of the world. The Lord never comes without a purpose. So he comes. Of course, he can come without a purpose as well. But in Bhagavad Gita, we do learn that whenever there is a decline in religious principles, the Lord appears. So the Lord had appeared as King Prithu to protect the people of the world, and Shri, the Lord's constant companion, has partially incarnated as Archie to become King Prithu's queen. Then in the following verses, we see that the demigods, everybody is very, very in jubilation of Prithu's appearance. So the Brahmanas praise King Prithu, Gandharvas sing for his glories, and Siddhas showered flowers and Apsaras dance in ecstasy. There's a lot of praising, and auspicious sounds of conches, bugles, drums, and kettle drums vibrated in the outer space. Great sages, forefathers, and personalities from the heavenly planets arrived. Brahma is concluding here that Lord Brahma, along with his demigod, they come, seeing they're just not accepting anything like that. They see the marks of the club on King Prithu's right hand and lotus on his feet. Lord Brahma could understand that King Prithu was the Lord's partial representation. So that tells us, this verse tells us very clearly, as Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here, time and again, who are not the personality of Godhead. So before accepting someone as an incarnation of God, one should verify his identity according to the symptoms mentioned in the Shastras. And from verse number 11, we know, we learn about the coronation of King Prithu. So there's this huge paraphernalia collected. The learned Brahmanas then arranged for King Prithu's coronation. People collected different paraphernalia for the ceremony. Beautiful presentations, all the rivers, seas, hills, mountains, serpents, cows, birds, animals, the sky, the earth, and all living entities collected various presentations to offer to the king, not just human beings. And Prithu's splendor, King Prithu was exquisitely dressed and coronated, Abhikshitaha, together with his wife, well-ornamented wife, Archie. They appeared exactly like fire. And the verses from 14 to 20, we know what presentations were given to him. Like, for a couple of examples can be taken. Kuvera gave the gift. He offered King Prithu golden royal throne, Varuna umbrella, Vayu two chamaras. Dharma offered flower garlands which would expand his fame. Yama, the punishing rod to rule the world. Indra gave excellent crown. Brahma gave an armor made of spiritual knowledge. Saraswati gave transcendental necklace. Lord Hari gave his Sudarshan chakra to him. Lakshmi gave imperishable opulences. Lord Shiva sword marked with 10 moons. Durga shield marked with 100 moons. Soma, horses made of nectar. Vishwakarma gave beautiful chariot. Lord Agni gave a bow made of horns of goats and cows. Surya gave arrows of as brilliant as sunshine. Bhumi, slippers with magical powers. And demigods gave flowers again and again. There were sages who were singing infallible blessings. Ocean gave conch. Seas, mountains, and rivers gave path for his chariot. Bards were singing praises and prayers. And from here, the concept of praises and prayers begin. So this is a very, very interesting pastime till now, because Srimad Bhagavatam actually tells us the Bhagavatam actually begins with the knowledge of the absolute truth. And Bhagavatam tells very clearly how to know the Lord. And Bhagavatam, but through the Bhagavatam also tells about who is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That as well. So King Prithu being coronated here, being hugely praised by so many. How King Prithu takes that praise is what comes in the following verses. So from verse 21, King Prithu gives a very grave speech, and he sees that the bards are actually singing professional praises to him. They are professional bards, so they're singing praises for him. And here King Prithu smiles with gravity but that gravity is of thundering clouds, like very, very grave response he gives. And even though we know at this stage that Prithu Maharaj is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the Shaktavesha avatar. Now, who is a Shaktavesha avatar? We may want to know who is a Shaktavesha avatar. A Shaktavesha avatar is the Supreme Personality of Godhead actually empowers a jiva to do or he empowers to do certain duties, to do certain tasks. Like Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is also Shaktavesha avatar because he has done extraordinary activities, extraordinarily he has spread the mission of his spiritual master. So here Prithu Maharaj says that I haven't yet displayed any of the qualities. So why are you telling me before? So he's really, really humble here. So he says, oh, gentle Sutta Magadavandi, how can these qualities be directed to me? Why these praises are for me when I haven't yet even displayed anything about it? So here we may ask, or in this text itself, the bards may ask, what is the fault in praising you? What is the problem in praising you? So in the next verse, 22, Prithu Maharaj says that if I do not display these qualities, your words will go in vain. So if we keep praising somebody without any qualities, the words go in vain. And Prithu Maharaj also directs very quick, nicely he hints that, and then you will incur sins. So it is better that they be offered to someone else who's qualified to take it. And who is this someone else? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So definitely all these qualities will become manifest in the future. So then also Prithu Maharaj says, then glorify me in the future. Glorify me in the future when I exhibit those qualities, in my absence probably. So what should we do? Inspired by the assembly, we have begun to glorify you. The bards are thinking. Now offer prayer to the Lord because he is the source of everything. The gentle should offer prayer to the Lord and not to a low human like me. But the bards know that because the sages have certified it. The sages have clearly said that he's the Lord Brahma here comes to see Lord Prithu Maharaj here. So everyone knows that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but you are the Supreme Lord worthy of praise. Now, in this verse, Prithu Maharaj mentions that how could an intelligent man, competent enough to possess such exalted qualities, allow his followers to praise him if he did not actually have them? Praising a man by saying that if he were educated, he might have become a great scholar or great personality is nothing but a process of cheating. How do we understand this line? like a small child who might be really interested in fixing up the toys. We may say, oh, he's an engineer, or oh, he's a doctor. But he's actually not an engineer or a doctor. Is a process of cheating for the child, because for the child, we may be labeling the child as a doctor or a, so it is just a joke for him. And joke is also a form of cheating, where we are encouraging something that which is not. So praising a man by saying that if he were educated, so he's not educated, he might have become a great scholar. So this is illusion, which means someone does not have those qualities yet, but possesses certain things which may be worth praising. A foolish person who agrees to accept such a praise does not know that such words simply insult him. So in this text, praise is considered as an insult. Yesterday's verse, we were talking about praise. Praise brings a lot of pride in us. And therefore, the demonic personality, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the previous verse that difference between devotees and demons. So devotees are the ones who accept the authority of the Lord, the supreme personality of the Lord. But the demons, they consider themselves to be the supreme personality of God. And we also hinted a little bit on appreciation and praise. So if we actually see in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Prithu Maharaj was an incarnation of the supreme personality of Godhead. We know that from the beginning of at the time of the coronation, Lord Brahma and other demigods had already testified it. So they have, because he'd just been coronated, how he could not manifest his godly qualities right now, because he's just started. Therefore, he's not willing to accept the praise. And he's saying that until and unless he does things that are worth praising, he should not be receiving it. Otherwise, it is an insult. But on the other hand, what happens with us? We want praises before even we start our jobs. That, oh, I'm qualified to do this, so I must be doing it. So this is where the demonic qualities, the demonic propensities take up in us. So demons without good qualities should not accept false praise from their followers. Srila Prabhupada has very boldly mentioned, or very boldly he writes about demons. He quickly says demons, which means he's not really talking about demons, which is like demons with certain facial expressions or something like that. Demons, this is a knock on our on our heart, as to just to check what is happening with us. So if we don't accept praise, or how not to accept praise, let's talk about that. How not to accept praise. So Prithu Maharaj's great quality has been mentioned here. And what is his quality here? What quality of Prithu Maharaj in this verse is being highlighted? The quality is of utmost humility. In the next verse, Prithu Maharaj will say, praise is a criticism. And also by the ending of the chapter, Prithu Maharaj says that right now I'm not very famous for my personal activities. Therefore, how could I engage myself in getting all these praises that are not for me? So we understand his great humility in this. So not to accept praise is also one of the qualities of being humble. Like in Shikshashtakam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is a very famous verse, which and one of everybody's favorite as well. Trinada Pishani Chena, Taroreva Sahishnuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. In the third line, we always are we're looking for man, we're looking for respect from people. And we're not really thinking of giving respect to people. And until and unless we actually win learning this verse in our practical life, it's very, very difficult to have the taste of chanting in our real life. So Prithu Maharaj is very gentle and he's very humble and he's expressing his humility here. And he's telling that and he's doing this to educate his people. So definitely he's from the very beginning of his rule, of his reign, of his appearance, we see that Prithu Maharaj is teaching by example. So in short, we can say that if we are not to appraise, if we are not to accept praise, then we have to develop a quality of being humble. And so what is the quality of humility? I'm going to read a very short excerpt from the book, my favorite book, False Ego by Her Grace Devaki Mataji. And we'll just see some of the beautiful points that she has mentioned here. That false ego affects us and manifests in all kinds of unwanted patterns of behavior. As we subdue our false ego, it becomes less prominent. So when we understand that, where is this pride coming from? Where is this desire for praise coming from? It is from false ego, the false pride. So it becomes less prominent within our own ways of acting, and proportionally the quality of humility will shine through. Now, humility is a very natural quality of a pure soul. And humility of that pure soul is not affected by false ego. Humility means having a very humble servant consciousness. I'm the servant. That's why when we understand in so many books of Srila Prabhupada has clearly mentioned what is my, not talking of the Shastras, but talking of how Srila Prabhupada has really clearly mentioned our, to make us realize our constitutional position. We're not the masters, we are the servants. So the being the servant, being in servant consciousness is humility. Now, humble servant consciousness is diametrically opposed to the false ego consciousness. There's always these two consciousness, false ego consciousness and humble servant consciousness. By briefly discussing how humility manifests, we can increase our attraction and desire to develop this beautiful ornament. In this book, she writes, His Holiness Gaur Govind Maharaj gives the following analogy during a lecture in Ghana on 20th January 1996. And this is very, very interesting. The pot of the heart should be made of these four constituents: humility, tolerance, respect, and pridelessness. Mahaprabhu is the giver and you are the receiver. If your pot is not made of these constituents, how can you receive it? So these four qualities will gradually and naturally manifest as we become free from the demands and orders of our false ego. Only then can we truly receive the matchless gift that Srila Prabhupada and Mahaprabhu has given to us. We find in the Shastras very nice explanations of the quality of humility. In his purport to the to Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada explains humility means what? Humility means that one should not be anxious to have satisfaction of being honored by others. I'd really like to read this for myself once more. Humility means one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows what he is, not his body, who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor, dishonor pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently, sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. So the anxiousness for the satisfaction to be honored by others is once again the demand of false ego that it casts on us. And in the ultimate sense, it is useless since it is related to a temporary situation. And we consider that as an impetus. And the ultimate, so it has no connection to the soul. Actually, this desire has nothing to do with the soul, and thus will be insignificant at the moment of death. Humility means that we are free from such anxiousness. That explains very clearly that why this place is full of anxiety, because we're always looking for self-respect. Sanatana Goswami further states in his Brihad Bhagavatamrita, scholars define humility as being when a person, even though possessing all good qualities, considers himself to be completely unqualified, worthless, and unintelligent. Therefore, by his words, activities, and intelligence, it is the duty of a sadhaka to conduct himself in such a way that he'll become fixed in humility. An intelligent person should not do anything that is opposed to humility. So, humility is a mature stage of prema. Even though we may have no good qualities, we may still consider ourselves so qualified, worthy, and intelligent, something which the false ego whispers into our ears. And in the compilation, Japa Meditations, His Holiness Dhanurdhara Maharaj gives insight into the questions of how an advanced person sees himself as not being very elevated at all. So this is very interesting. A person who is spiritually advanced thinks he's not very elevated for tasting the boundless ocean of devotional service. Even a drop of it makes one realize how much more there is to attain and how little one has, because it is unlimited expansion of nectar. This nicely explains how elevated personalities like Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur sometimes lament, seeing themselves as materialists who have simply wasted their lives. He had received insights into the ever-increasing, unlimited realm of spiritual experience. Since it is unlimited and ever-expanding in higher and higher levels of experience, whatever he tastes seemed insignificant, being merely the beginning. However, a neophyte devotee who has not even gained a glimpse of the true nature of transcendence will think his experience of happiness to be a sign of great advancement. He does not even know about the ever-increasing realm of transcendental bliss available to a Vaishnava. Therefore, a Vaishnava is the highest position. In the same compilation, we find another statement by His Holiness Dhanurdhara Maharaj, and this is the key here: how to feel humble. How to feel humble. He mentions it is simple: introspect and be honest. Without such honest introspection, it is not possible to cultivate humility. Indeed, if we are introspective and honest, we will discover how much dirt is still lingering in our hearts. This understanding that we have a long way to go puts us in a humble situation, but without introspection and without being honest, this endeavor is not genuine. So when we surrender, how do we accept? That comes the next question. Then we understand humility brings a lot of surrendering. So surrendering means we have to follow somebody. To accept Krishna, how do we know? We have to follow the footsteps of Arjuna. The whole Bhagavad Gita talks about Arjuna's surrender. It is not that he does not have doubts. He has unlimited doubts, but he's still surrendered. So in chapter 15, verse number 5, Krishna mentions those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that the surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride. Because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the Lord of material nature, it's very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not the Lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can then begin the process of surrender. Begin. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated, and he's always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering the land, this earth, to belong to human society. And they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. These faulty associations bind one into the material world. And after this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. So it's a guarantee that we have to develop spiritual knowledge. The sooner, the better. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes full in knowledge, and it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So such beautiful purport it is, with such a clear indication that Lord himself has come in the form of, as a Shaktavesh avatar, in the form of Prithu Maharaj, to teach us who the Lord is. And by his examples, by his personal exalted qualities, we know how humility can be developed, how humility can be developed, or how we can. It's a very important lesson about praise. Past few days we've been talking about it, and beautiful insights have been given by so many devotees. And it's so interesting to see that certain points of our day-to-day life we we might ignore, or we might be kind of just entangled in. And Srimad Bhagavatam comes in the right time and explains us how to actually develop. So that's where the significance of Shastra comes. And then if we talk about demons, we also, yesterday we did mention about this, that pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to the quality of those of demoniac nature. So I'll just quickly read the purport of this. Srila Prabhupada also mentions very beautifully that the road to hell, Srila Prabhupada says in this verse, a royal road to hell is described. Where pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. The demoniac want to make a show of religion and advancement in spiritual science, although they themselves do not follow the principles. They're always arrogant or proud in possessing some type of education or so much wealth. The desire to be worshipped by others. That's the power. Power-hungry people do this. And demand respectability, although they do not command respect. Over trifles, they become very angry and speak harshly, not gently. They do not know what should be done and what should not be done. They do everything whimsically according to their own desire, and they do not recognize any authority. These demonic qualities are taken on by them from the beginning of their bodies, in the wombs of their mother. And as they grow, they manifest all these inauspicious qualities all through their lives. This is an eye-opener for me, honestly. I really want to accept that there are innumerable demoniac qualities in me, understanding that without the help of proper introspection and without being honest about it, there is definitely a long way for me to go, at least, to understand what spiritual qualities are. So very, very beautiful, very beautiful focus on praise, which leads to so many other things, that one desire to acquire or to achieve praise from others leads us to how many subtle form of things that we have in our hearts. It's very beautifully mentioned here in these verses 23, 24, 25, 26, which we will do tomorrow. So I would like to stop here. And if there's any comments or anything anyone wants to add, or any questions you would like to discuss, we can open this platform here. I think I haven't taken a lot of, 22. Yes. So all glories to His divine grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So anyone who would like to add anything or comment or question, discussions?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, nice class, as it is always. Very deep meaning for everything, especially humility. Yeah, when you are telling about that humility, in my mind, I was asking how we can develop the humility. But next, you told about that we need to surrender. But in the present situation, these all questions come in our mind. How we are passing our day-to-day life. It's very difficult to take that all qualities, be honest, be humble. So how we can go ahead with this? We also know, our heart is not pure. Our heart is full of pride and full of demoniac quality. How we can go through with this? When we can pass all these bad things and will deserve the good things? We are full of all bad things, because when we are in this all session and when we read, yes, we know But when again we come out from this, this transcendental things that Srimad Bhagavatam, and when we go to work and in our family life, all bad qualities comes. So how we can go through with all these things? How we can develop? This is my questions. We
That's a
know
very,
the all qualities.
that's a very interesting discussion, Mataji. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, very true. You're mentioning the reality of our lives, that we may think that, okay, we have to keep this in our heart, that introspection um, brings humility, honesty brings humility. We know it, right? And but when we deal with in the real world situation, um, as long as we don't harm people by having cheating propensities in us, uh, we can't be humble, or we can't be introspective, or we can't be honest. So Srila Prabhupada in Isopanishad, the section, he says that we have this MISC in us. Every living entity will have that, making mistakes. And we are always, we have the propensity to commit mistakes. We will commit. To err as human comes like that. Then there's this, our senses are not our senses are always we are always in illusion, right? And then there is this cheating propensity in us. So when we have these things in us, which are naturally the state of our conditioned life, conditioned being, then how do we fight from it? So as you're saying, you are yourself extremely humble, that you're saying that I do have these qualities. So this means you might have done a lot of introspection yourself, and there's no harm in accepting that, but there is no need also to accept it all the time, just as a as a level of most of the time what we do is we think about ourselves a lot. We think that, oh, I have to be humble, instead of acting humble. So Gurudev actually mentions here, humility also means thinking less about ourselves. Like, I should not be thinking about myself all the time. When I keep myself occupied in the service of the Lord and leave the rest of the things for His pleasure, and understand that I am not the controller anyways, and my job is like a humble servant consciousness. That is how I develop, that I'm just the servant of the Lord. And in these service, there will be a lot of mistakes that I'll commit. There'll be a lot of definitely there might be a cheating propensity, which subtle or clear. We kind of, when we realize that, just simple example, at the time of offering the bhogas, we may also start thinking of, oh, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. Oh, the Lord, after the Lord has taken, I'll pack that for my prasadam, or something like that, or I'll eat that. This is also a subtle cheating propensity, that before we don't have that ahaituki feeling in us yet. Without motivation, we're not serving. So as we keep serving, the desire of becoming, thinking less about oneself and thinking more about the Lord, puts us into that framework of thinking less about myself. Oh, I thought, yes, okay, I thought, sorry, Krishna. I am your humble servant. Not so humble though, because I'm thinking about myself at the moment. So when this introspection comes in us and we become honest with Krishna, so that's where the most important thing comes. We need to be honest with Krishna. Yes, Krishna, I have these propensities. You were eating that prasadam, you were eating that bhoga, and my mouth was watering. you know. So this is honesty, where we actually say, I also have certain things. Because I'm conditioned in this material world, I'm going against the flow. And only Krishna, you're going to help me in going with the humility flow of that humility, or what you call that, servant consciousness. Because we forget that servant consciousness, we take my consciousness. That's why that servant consciousness is replaced by my, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. What is it? What's in it for me? Mera kya? Mujhe kya milega? If I do this, what am I? And the first thing, that if we actually introspect in our hearts, in our minds, we know that I am doing most of the things for myself.
True. But when we are busy with serving to Lord, we don't feel anything. But when this type of questions comes, then we judge ourselves.
Yeah.
So always we don't think about that I am doing right or wrong. But when this type of questions comes, then we think.
So
Khushi.
So yeah, definitely these are that's where Maharaj is mentioning here to feel humble. Now you have started the process of feeling humble, because these questions have to come. This is a natural question. You're introspecting that, oh, in such situations I don't act, or I don't introspect my actions. So when we actually become honest in our own understanding of what am I doing, then we start becoming liberated from that anxiety, you see. And that we start taking steps towards Krishna. We start taking steps towards surrendering to Krishna. Otherwise, I, me, mine, it's always like that. I don't believe in Krishna. He never comes to me when I need help. But Krishna sends help. My intelligence does not permit me to accept him, because I am so engrossed in myself, in my own pains, in my own traumas, in my own little world that I'm carrying here all the time. And that's why it's very hard to be humble.
Yes.
We may pretend a lot to be humble. We may pretend that, oh, yes, Prabhuji, yes, Mataji, yes, I am your servant. Inside, we may be thinking, I hate this person. I don't like to serve this person. Inside our heart, it's not really genuine to serve that person. So the mere show of humility helps us to go nowhere.
Yes, true, Mataji. Thank you. It's always, always we are in duality. All things come up. Sometimes it's true, it's wrong, it's right, always comes in mind. But when whatever it comes, when we say from our mind, we think that Krishna gives us the intelligence. That's why we convince ourselves.
Yeah. Also, there's one more point where we can say that Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. If we lose the association of Shastras or Guru or the sadhus, but sadhus mean sadhus, only focused on improving and connecting to Krishna. So these three things, sadhu, shastra, and Guru, are very important.
We'll go in 3 lines.
Yes.
Always. 3 parallel lines.
The moment we get disconnected, we stopped interest. The other day, Saradhya Mataji was talking about Guru being heavy, because Guru has the right to chastise us, show us the mirror. Hello, you're like that.
Yes, true.
And we may be like, I sometimes, it's very difficult to be standing in front of the pure devotees, because it feels like there's this scanning going on, isn't it? True. It feels like through the eyes we're being clearly scanned, that, oh, look at me, what am I doing? Or the anything, because I'm not advancing, because I'm stuck, because I am this, I'm that. Our behavior tells us very clearly to ourselves. So in that case, it's kind of very important to be connected. So Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya helps us remember these points. Otherwise, we keep forgetting and we get lost in the material world. So we don't have to segregate material. He's a materialist. I'm a devotee. This is that. This is no. It's just to say that where am I safe? Where am I safe to deal? Where am I in the safety zone, or am I in danger? So becoming too materially engrossed in our minds and hearts is a dangerous position. It's not about wars and this and that. It's within, because spirituality is internal.
Yeah.
So the internal danger is always there of just switching from this thing to that thing.
Maya is always there behind of Krishna. So we have to stay in front of Krishna.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you,
Very
Mataji.
beautiful discussion, Mataji. Thank you very much.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. If there's no one discussing, then we can stop here, Prabhu. Is that fine?
Yeah, Mataji. Yeah, all good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Panchakalpatarubhyascha कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। हाय कृष्ण राधा पद्म माता जी की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय।